Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
That was amazing. I can tell already we are just going to be flirting with some magical territory. Good evening, party people. You beautiful cucumbers. Welcome to East Atlanta Village. Big shout out to our brother Armando and everyone at the Argosy for having us tonight.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Argosy.
Round of applause. Snap, snap, snap. What we love about the show is continuing to break new ground and do 2 things that are, I believe, so important to us. One is just love and friendship. Well, to the day we die, that'll always be so important. And then talking about music. So these 2 guests, one I've known for a long time, and I'm a huge fan of hers. The other one, I'm just getting to know, and she rules as well. And from what I understand, they're a complete package, you know? They come together. So that's really, really cool. So
double
tonight,
episode.
Right, double album. It's not a double album, it's 2 albums, but it's a double episode.
Yes.
And I'm super excited. Karen Hornsmith and Jenny Watts.
You got it right.
Yes. And the other thing I want to say is we love doing this is you know, me saying something because we've all known each other for so long, but when I met someone, it might be a different way than when you met someone, because you have a history with Jenny DJing. I love that, and you've been talking to me about this for, I think, 6 or 8 months now.
We've been trying to do this for a while.
Like, I've been flirting with
Just
getting
like Jesse and Greg.
Yes,
yeah.
like in the Jesse and Greg episode, well, was so awesome as well. And
Yes.
then, you know, and then we've been talking about making this happen, and then Cassie just came up with this great idea about saying, let's do this as a double episode. So I'm going to walk away, get behind the scenes. I want to thank our brother Matthew Darrow for helping us out, doing behind the scenes production.
Yes.
For the rest of the night, I will have an apron over my arm. I may scream from the other room, saying a damned song or something. Oops, didn't mean to spoil it, that I like. And you guys have a blast. But now we're going to let James do his intro of these beautiful, awesome humans. I'll see you guys.
Yay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers.
So Jenny, we've been trying to do this for a long time, of course. I know you from here, DJing here. Armando was gracious to let me DJ here all the time in the front room.
Probably like 6 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's been
7 years
about
ago?
6 or 7 years of
Yeah.
doing this. Always a fun Saturday night, and you were working behind the bar. And I remember it would be like, if I showed up and you're like, are you playing records tonight? And I'd be like, yes.
I'd be like,
she'd
yay!
say, yes! It was like, great, somebody who is excited about what I'm playing and also fun, and also, you know, will get me a beer if I'm like, because it's so far from the DJ booth to the bar. So I'm like, I have to time it just right. Be like, it's
So,
like, okay,
hold
I
on.
need
Is
like
that
a
how you
5,
started
6 minute
DJing?
song, and then.
Is that
Yeah.
how you started DJing? Or you did DJ before that?
I DJed before that for a little bit, yeah. But I think like him, I started a little late on the game in DJing and didn't
Cool.
start DJing until like 7 years ago, probably. Something
Yeah.
like, it was Prince's birthday was the first, or no, Prince's death, sorry.
Oh,
Oh, it was when he died.
It was the day Prince died, was the first time I like actually vinyl DJ'd, like
Yes.
in a public space.
So that's something you're not gonna forget that day. but, you
No,
know, that's-
no, because I was like, uh-oh, I have to like,
Well, what was the
Yeah.
circumstances? You were like, I'm gonna DJ, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Prince.
it was an
passed
event
away.
back here, and they asked me to DJ,
Fun.
and I did it, and then
And you
and,
played
then
the
I
Prince?
asked Karen for her Prince records because I didn't have any, and she had a ton of
I
Prince
had a ton of
Prince records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Baltimore.
Right.
We were seeing Bruce Springsteen with my brother, and you called and you were like, "Can I borrow your records?" And she has a key to my house, and my wife basically. So
And you were
we
able to
like-
find them? That was the other
I
question.
mean, I have
Did you
my
say?
records.
I know
are
where her
separate
records are.
than from
Oh, they're
Jesse's
segregated?
Records.
Yeah.
Oh, we do
Oh,
not.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
I did
no
not know
mixing
that.
of records.
Wow.
Yeah. We've been together 18 years, and we are
No mixing of
no
records.
mixing of
Oh
records.
no.
Yeah.
She has her own section, and so
fascinating.
they're all alphabetized, so it was easy to find
It's a
Prince.
very small section because I pretty much stopped buying records after I got together with Jesse because it was like he already
already
had
has
it.
so many.
He will,
Yeah.
yeah. he'll buy it for you or whatever.
Yeah,
And it'll
he
be
does.
kinda- we're
But
just
he
like-
still keeps it in his section, even if it's for me.
Well, talk a minute for the what you do together professionally, like for like your business.
But also Karen, of course. We
Well, yeah, of
introduced,
course. But like
this is the reason
better.
why this is a combined.
your idea is better.
episode.
Yes.
Hey,
I
we
mean, I
can
was like,
make
well,
it
Tom
flow.
mentioned it,
We'll
but
get to
yeah.
me whenever it's time. Let's talk about jewelry for a second.
Let's talk about jewelry for a second.
Yeah, Karen and I know each other through. We rely on each other through a business and where we make jewelry and.
And I didn't know that you were part of the team in a way when I would start DJing at Argosy, and then I realized, oh wait a minute, you're the other side of Fossil and Hyde. And yes,
So yeah, we've been doing it for
you had a big anniversary.
10 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Hit the
Yeah.
10-year
Congratulations.
Yeah, we just
Congratulations.
hit a decade.
I know. We're getting there slowly but surely. It's like every year we're like, all right, this is going to be our year, and it's been
you're
great.
growing
but
little
we're
by
growing,
little,
which is good. I don't think we could handle.
I've heard
overnight.
like just from other friends that love your jewelry and stuff. Like it's a name that I know. Like as far as like jewelry and stuff. Like it's because your stuff's pretty incredible from what I've seen.
Thanks.
Did you make that? Did you make
Yes.
that? That is beautiful.
All of the stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
But I jewelry is not, obviously I know nothing about jewelry,
Really?
but your page is the only jewelry page that I
you
look at, because
follow?
it's honestly
very
it's all
sweet.
and I don't know anything
It's
about jewelry,
unique.
but it's
like
also
it's all got its own. It has its own
it's-
personality. Like
it
it's
is.
Yeah.
not just like run of the mill anything. It's very.
And a fun thing to like interject in that, when we first started making jewelry 10 years ago and started posting on social media, we were very musically influenced, and we would,
Basically hunt down bands and be like, we're gonna give you this awesome jewelry if you let us
Yeah.
take photos of
Yeah.
you for
Yeah.
our,
That's
you know,
awesome.
That's
whatever,
really
like
cool.
social media.
Yeah.
And we got to put it on a lot of cool people, including
like
Nick Cave.
Nick Cave.
Yeah.
And,
What? His name's gonna come up,
Dead
isn't
Moon,
it, for a minute?
Oh yeah, Tootie.
Tootie
Cool.
from Dead Moon.
Dead Moon.
What?
Yes.
That's really cool.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Pretty cool.
so
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I know that the custom stuff you do, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine to be in a band that has an amulet, or whatever you call it, like a medallion, like Urge Overkill,
Did
like,
you
I always think
needed a
about,
beer, didn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, I still
I'm
have.
good right now. Yeah.
So.
This is plenty.
Good.
well, we need some stock, so.
We'll share that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks.
share.
You are the best. Thank you.
You guys are
Lots of
beautiful.
drinks.
Hey.
Lots of drinks.
Cheers of everything.
Cheers.
We're gonna,
Talk about
cheers.
talk about
All
music.
right, let's do it.
well, yes, but to say that the jewelry piece, I love the custom stuff you guys do, and the band related stuff and all that. And like I said, bands with medallions are awesome. When I think about Urge Overkill, it's just saying Urge Overkill, Magma, and I mean, not that many bands use them, like do
Right.
them, but I always think that's
That's
awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah.
I like it.
What records did you pick? What record did you pick, Jenny?
I picked. Should I hold it up?
You can set it right here then.
Okay. I picked The Damned
Phantasmagoria.
Phantasmagoria.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
What
is
a
always the
great
like
pick.
in the record store when you're going through the Damn section, you're like, oh wait a minute, this isn't a punk one.
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah, you're like,
I'm a little
what?
scared of this
And then it's
one.
like,
This
and then just
scary.
speaking of Nick Cave, of course, you got to like talk about Susie
Susie.
Bick.
What a babe.
I just recently
What a babe.
found out that she was Nick Cave's wife now. But like,
Have you
I've always
gone-
thought she was gorgeous.
On her website, have
I
you?
have not.
Oh
The
my
Vampire's
gosh.
Wife.
We're the vampire's wife.
That's her name. That's her website. That's her brand.
She has
Yes.
the most amazing dresses. I mean,
she's absolutely stunning.
amazing. I can't afford. They're like $3,00000.
But-
I do have one, but I got
When
that
you win the
one.
lottery, you'll win.
Yep.
You're doing
But
it.
anyway, she's she's fascinating lady.
And then, because since we're talking about both, then
What's Karen's pick?
did. I'll get mine is the Sisters of Mercy, First and Last and Always.
Right.
all right. And there's so much in common with these. So, I mean, there's so much
So much in common, but so much so different.
But they're
so
totally
different.
different,
It's
I would
crazy,
say.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So, when you guys picked these, you picked them because, like, kind of they both, which is interesting that you said goth, because besides the styling of this album, you don't hear a lot of goth in the sound, you know? Like and then Sisters of Mercy, Andrew Eldritch will just like absolutely deny that they're goth. So it's like very interesting.
But what does
it's
he
like,
say?
He's like
he is.
He does. I mean, he was very like into Jim Morrison from like The Doors.
He was
Okay.
and glam.
And
Super
glam.
into glam.
Yes, he loved Gary Glitter,
Yep,
and
Gary Glitter.
but he also really loved like the birthday party in the fall. So it was kind of like, but he hung out at the F Club.
At the F Club, which is
Where-
super interesting, because a lot of why they ended up progressing where they did was because he ended up dating.
Because it was goth night. Or whatever.
No, it was. It wasn't. They will. Even the other members of the band, like Gary Marks, who was one of the original.
Right.
I mean, him and Andrew Eldritch, like not their original names, but they started Sisters of Mercy together. But Andrew Eldritch was dating this girl named Claire
Yep.
Searsby, who which makes me think of you then, because she was pivotal in the scene in Leeds at that time. Like for years, she was the resident DJ at all these. So that's really how Andrew Eldritch gained access to the Furs to be able to give them his tape to get Alice produced and all that. So that's really, I think that's interesting. I think of you, like every time I was just like, see, girls rock.
Yeah.
DJs, they're gonna like, because everybody from that
Movers
time
and
will say
shakers.
that like she was pivotal, like she was the scene. Like if you had to pick one person the scene revolved around, it's like
She was
she was
her.
a female and a DJ.
And in the
don't know if
late
I'm-
70s, early 80s too, which was not as
Own it.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
for
It
sure.
wasn't as prevalent. Own it. School. The power. So yeah, it's like, so when you guys picked both of these, you talked about like collectively
Right.
decided that and there's so many interesting, not just that, because you go to a goth night, you're gonna hear both of these.
Yeah,
You're gonna hear both
for
of these
sure.
bands,
That's-
you
yeah.
know, definitely. So like mostly like off this album, I think, for like the Damned. And the Sisters of Mercy, even though they insist that they're not.
They're so good. I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
And then to go and like, after the original members kind of broke up, he was like, I'm going to get Patricia Morrison to play in my band. Queen
Okay,
of Goth. Like,
there
you
you go.
can't even
Who is
deny
also
it.
married to Dave Vanian.
I mean, right?
So that's kind of
I
why.
think that to me is the major like connection. I
Yeah.
mean, really between those two
Yeah.
bands, because it's like you can't read up on Andrew Eldritch without hearing the name Patricia Morrison, and the same for Dave Vanian.
Yeah.
And they're also both of them are the only constant member from
Yes,
every album
yep,
that they put out, which
Well,
is just like so fascinating.
If you count Dr. Avalanche as a
Oh
member.
yeah, well that is true. But plus
You guys are getting
Dr.
really deep into this. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Avalanche is the drum machine that they use, and they named
like
Dr.
like
Avalanche.
Roland
Yes.
for Big Black.
I mean,
yeah.
and it's
I
like,
love
and so,
naming the drum
I
machine.
mean, it's like
That's
so they use
awesome.
like a something Oberon or something like this, but it's changed.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and like so Andrew Eldritch is like super into like German stuff, and so he like chose the spelling doctor with a K, and then
Is that why? Because of the
That's why.
German? Because he had gone to Leeds. Oh no, he had gone to Oxford to learn Chinese and German. No, French and German.
French and German.
And then he decided he wanted to learn Mandarin.
That's yes.
Chinese Mandarin. So then
Yeah.
he like dropped out of Oxford and went to Leeds. And that to me has nothing to do with music, but it was the most fascinating thing to me because I
He's
was
a
like,
very smart dude.
how do you do that? And then you go to Leeds to learn Mandarin. You change schools, and then you get there and you're just like,
Well, he
music's
was
cool.
going to have to go to China for like a really long time, and he didn't want to do that because he had just started.
Oh, is that why?
The band, like he had just started kind of messing around. Like
Okay.
apparently, I think it was John Langford from the Mekons.
They had
They had a thing
Leeds
like
right there.
Leeds, yes.
Oh, they were very
and
closely related.
He
Yeah.
like John Langford lent or like maybe stored his drum kit with Andrew Eldritch, and so he tried to start playing drums, and that he and Gary Marks started doing that.
Right.
And then he was like, I want to do this, but I suck at drumming.
And Gary Marks
Get the doctor.
met
Get the doctor in. Yeah.
Gary
Call
Marks
the doctor.
Call the doctor.
met Gary Marks and Andrew Eldritch met because they were, I guess it was like they had a big national front like problem
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So one of the guys, it might have been John Langford, but I don't think so. I think it was somebody else from the Mekons, but I'm not sure. But like, he was going to get in a fight with some guys from the National Front, so somebody had Gary Marks and Andrew Eldritch, who was, dating the DJ, escort him to the bathrooms. And he's like, and so Gary Marks is like, that's pretty much how we met, is like escorting the so-and-so from the Mekons to the bathroom so he didn't get his ass kicked.
It's
Like
pretty-
by the National Front, which is so strange.
Crazy.
And then the Mekons have a line in one of their songs
Yes.
about
Yes.
Claire,
Charlie
the DJ
Cake
was
Park.
Yes.
Is the name of the song. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep.
So it's really, really.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
know.
we just like went.
It's
okay.
like that.
Anyway.
Yeah, totally like.
Yeah, we went down a big rabbit hole.
Big
No, I like
rabbit
it.
hole.
The rabbit holes are cool.
The Leeds scene.
Yeah.
I always think of, I didn't know Patricia Morrison other than the gun club and the LA kind of side of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to me to get, you look at her like her discography and you're like, oh, there's a lot of other stuff, but I
Yeah.
only know
She was
the-
like in LA and then went
Yeah,
over to
just-
Yeah, she went to
London.
England.
Yeah.
And then
and
She left because she was like getting into the scene too much and like a lot of drugs and all that, and she just wanted to get out of LA, and that's
Yeah.
why
Oh.
she went. But because she had been in the bags before
Yeah.
with like out, and that they're so incredible, and then Gun Club, and I feel like there was one other band in there that I can't remember that she was in.
but I understand, and it's Dave Vanian, so if you're gonna,
And that's where, yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
you,
But what's
you
interesting
can't
is like
resist.
she was in The Damned like before she married Dave Vanian. She
She
was in
was
The
in
Damned
it
for
for
a
like
minute.
10 years or 7 years or something.
Was
She was in
she?
it for a long time.
Yeah.
Until she got pregnant.
Oh, until she got pregnant.
In the
Yeah.
90s. 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think she joined, but I think she was maybe only in it for like a year or two, wasn't she?
I think they
before
didn't
she
even
got
get
pregnant?
married until like 97 or something like
Yeah.
that. So,
But I think she didn't actually officially leave the Sisters of Mercy until 90. But because that's a whole mess. And it's interesting because like you hear her talk about there's so much crossover. I mean, just because you have these two figures, right? You have Dave Vanian and you have Andrew Eldritch, and they're so different, but there's also there's also a lot like I read something where she's obviously very, very angry at Andrew Eldritch, who used her.
used her.
Very
Didn't
much
even give her
used her.
credits on the record.
Didn't give her credits, and
Nothing.
obviously it was
Said
because
that she couldn't play the bass. He hired
But
her
when
for
you
her
see
looks.
when you see her playing bass in the bags on that video,
She can play bass.
she is playing bass. So
But he had-
And she
wanted
played
just-
all the Gun Club records.
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
So,
My first introduction, because I hadn't heard this album. My first introduction to Sisters of Mercy was Floodland.
Yep.
When I was in high school, and
Yeah, let's talk about how you came across these records.
Well,
yeah.
I like this record. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for picking both of these because, like, The Damned is a band that I don't know a ton about, but I know that we've seen them, and I've liked everything. Like when we saw them play, like a
The
few years
Damned,
ago.
they
At
have
the,
such a good history.
yeah, I mean, an insane history, really. And so I'm happy, I'm so happy that you guys picked both of these because I hadn't heard of them. I was definitely familiar with The Damned, but I don't own any Damned records. But I know that in high school I owned Floodland on cassette. Because there
Me
was,
too.
like, yeah,
It was on cassette.
on cassette.
was it on cassette?
And I like this Corrosion is just like
Karaoke song.
How can you
It's my
say that you're not goth and then put out a song
I know.
like this Corrosion?
It's like a surf band saying
they
they're
were-
not surf.
Right.
It's like,
as a joke band.
kind of the-
Like, so he was just trying to be this cliche
Well,
of like.
Him
then
and
it
Gary
went-
Marks.
just stumbled into this
Him and
Yeah.
Gary
Well,
Marks
this is
just
what
wanted to
I
hear
need to do.
themselves on the radio.
Yes, they
Right.
said if we make it onto like BBC or anything like that.
And then
that's-
like I think
yeah.
the original not the original bassist, but
Ben
the original
Gunn?
second Ben Gunn, he left because he was just like you're turning into the same thing that you were making fun of when
Exactly.
you first started, which is kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that he did that. He has a wicked sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I
big
think
time.
so does Dave Vanian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like on one hand, like Andrew Eldridge, he seems to take himself more
He does.
like crazy
He
serious
does,
because he
big
hates
time.
everybody. He's like
Yeah.
very anti everything. Dave Vanian, well, The Damned, I don't know Dave Vanian. The Damned, I feel like we're just doing this and we are, we're not taking ourselves seriously.
Well, he does. I mean, he's made Dave Vanian, like Transylvania,
Yeah.
you know he's got like an awesome sense of humor. Like, you know, like he's just
Yeah.
playful.
You have someone like Captain Sensible in the band.
Right.
And how can you
I
not
mean,
do
you
that?
know,
Rat
for
Scabies.
sure.
That's also what because well, I want to ask a question. Did you have this album and did you have that album? If it's your other picks,
Like, were you
what's
both
your,
familiar with it?
did you like buy the Damned album when you were in high school, or is it, is it sort of like
I didn't
these
know.
are two
I didn't
complementary
know.
records that like you both picked individually?
It's really interesting because I was listening to like shitty like punk rock in high school.
Right.
You know,
You didn't have as
and
much
like
of a
when
goth
I
phase.
had heard of the Damned and of course like the Misfits but the Damned to me I thought they were a goth band. Like I didn't realize they were
Like
a punk
original.
band because like when I grew up in a small town and like the only punk that I was introduced to was like what my friends were listening to, and so it was like like No Effects, Descendants, and like just like pop punk. And so the Damned to me, I just didn't delve into it until my 20s. And when I did, I was like, this is so punk, like, and great and amazing. But Phantasmagoria was like not even in my
different.
realm
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
It was like,
But
the
if you look at
triple
Dave
Damned.
Vanian, you always that's like in his blood is to
Oh my
is to
God.
like
to be
to
goth.
be
to
kind of
Yeah.
goth.
I didn't get that,
But
really?
well, even
Oh,
on like
yeah.
you look at the back cover of their first album, and he's in full
Oh,
like.
no.
you
Like
know,
his
It's like you
paints
got
his
the-
face
As-
white.
it's a punk
aesthetically,
band with a
he-
vampire up
he
front,
has such a-
but it's still goofy and weird.
And then he has his
fun.
sidekicks that are
Yeah.
like, wears a bazooka hat
Yeah.
and like.
I think like definitely his I think he was like which I think Joe Strummer was too, like a grave digger for a stint.
Yes, Dave Vanian was a grave digger. Yeah.
And so his style is definitely like I'm sure his look definitely influenced the goth look. But I wouldn't necessarily say sound-wise, this album sounds goth. But yeah, like everything about it is super, like aesthetically, super goth. I mean, look at that.
And they have, and it has like the organ.
And then the back, it's all
Organs
cemetery
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, yeah. And then
back
like to
is so
separate
good.
where the other one starts, it's got like
Yeah.
little crows. It's got
like,
little,
come
like the
on.
little, it's like.
But then there's that song, I think There'll Come a Day, where he's like, as this like he sounds like show tuney, like he's like,
Yeah.
we're all go insane.
Okay, so I absolutely adore the second side. The first side, it's growing on me, but it's like I think if I would have heard this a long time ago, like maybe when I was in high school, I would probably adore it. But I mean, I definitely heard songs of it back from that, but like from start to finish. But I think like it's very, very. They saw Dave Vanian, and after Captain Sensible left, they're like, we need a center point. Like we really need to make a sound. So they like focused in on that a lot with the production, and I think like the production it's definitely. You hear 80s, like you definitely hear the 80s.
Oh, it's
in
very
it. Like
80s.
it's very super 80s.
But I think it sounds really good. I feel like it's Dave Vanian's
Like-
the album he wanted to
It's
make
his-
at
Like
that
it's his, like,
it's his
vision.
vision.
Yeah.
It's
Like
his-
if you have seen
it's
him,
really-
if you go see the Damned, like Dave Vanian knows that his audience wants to hear everything off of
first
the
three
first
albums,
three
or-
albums.
or
So
the first one and
he
the third
won't
one,
play
but maybe
those
not.
songs
Like,
until the
like-
end. But
Yeah.
he plays at least 3 songs from Phantasmagoria.
Please
at the
say
bi-
Grimly Fiendish. Please
And he's
say
mostly
because that's what
into
Grimly
it.
Fiendish.
Yeah.
Does he? Because I didn't.
He doesn't play it at the beginning. He played it, I think, midway. But like he plays like Shadow of Love, Street of Dreams. He didn't play the Eighth Day, which I wanted him to. But like he
that
plays
was really, really catchy.
he
And it makes you
plays,
so
like,
happy when you hear it.
3 songs from Phantasmagoria in the beginning, and I was like, that's interesting because, all his, like, I even heard people, the last Damn show that I went to, they were like, he hasn't played Neat, yet.
Yeah,
And I'm
where's
like,
New Rose? I want to hear New
New
Rose.
Rose. And I was like,
Right.
interesting. Like, so
I
they
was gonna
don't
end
know.
this-
I like
yeah.
that
They don't
song.
know.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know Phantasmagoria.
Really?
I didn't.
That are Damned fans.
Well, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's because I didn't have anybody at the time when this came out, or even their earlier stuff. And the earlier stuff is like they put out the first punk stuff from England. You know, I mean, it's like
The very
a big
first-
deal. The very first.
You know that Sid Vicious was supposed to be in the Dams? Was supposed to be
but
like...
he didn't show up for the audition,
yeah.
right? But Dave Vanian did. But they kind of already knew each other, right? Because Dave Vanian
Malcolm
and Rod
McLaren
Scabies. Well, yeah, they had a band with Chrissy Hine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
It was
What
like
were
the
they called? The
Masters of
Masters of Backside.
Backside.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I think that's super cool. I like it.
Malcolm McLaren, like when the Damned and the Sex Pistols were together at the same time, everybody was trying to like pit them to like against each other, and the Sex Pistols were like, oh, the Damned suck, and like the Damned was like,
Right, it's a
whatever.
lot of competition.
Well, the Damned were just like, we're just
Well,
here.
I think their first,
Yeah.
but wasn't like the first. One of the first shows they played. I mean, I know one of the first tours they went.
was
They
with
went
the
on
Sex
with like the Sex
Pistols.
Pistols and like
Yeah.
Sid Vicious. I mean, it's like it was like a playful competition.
I
or
think
like-
it was like the producers were trying to pit them against each other as like a media stunt type thing.
Oh, okay, I get that. Because like I think Malcolm McLaren was really big on that, right? Like the media stuff, like the
Yeah,
for
yeah, like
sure.
doing the shock and the
Yeah.
getting people to like whatever. That's I know that I especially love the second side. I think what's interesting to me is that so you said Shadow of Love, right? You're talking about Shadow of Love. There's something about that I think that if you took away like lessen the production, there's something that kind of, even though I know Patricia Morrison didn't play on this, she didn't join them for like a long time later, but there's something around me that reminds me a little bit of like that kind of feel of the Gun Club.
Mm-hmm.
Like the West, like, you know, the kind of, it has a Western feel, but in like a different way.
I mean, I know the Damned, when they went on tour, like, to the States, they went to LA, and I think Dave Vanian met Patricia Morrison, like,
They met,
in
but they were
the
both
80s,
married.
70s, and
They were,
80s.
Yeah.
Oh, really? They
They were married.
And
to
the
other
LA
people.
scene was like the first scene that, or like one of the first scenes that was in the States that were like, we like the Damned, you know, who are these? Cool, they're cool, you know, and so
They weren't like the
maybe-
snooty, like New York,
Yeah.
like people like that were, you know, arty. It's like, yeah, we're gonna accept the British people, the British bands coming over or whatever.
we accept them as being punk, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people in the punk scene at that time thought that the Damned weren't punk because they weren't like fitting into like the look as much, you know, because Dave Vanian
Oh, they
looked like
definitely did their own
Dracula,
thing. Yeah.
and like, you know.
I mean, the Damned, I mean, the thing is, I don't have a relationship with either of these records, which is funny because I just, it's just like this kind of weird blank spot for me. But I think the
You weren't a
Damned,
goth kid, James.
I wasn't. It was, I completely missed it. For some reason, I mean, just whatever
I wasn't a goth kid
happenstance. And with Damned records, I would like I was saying, I would look through them and I'd get to that one and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. I have this weird thing, and I know a lot of people do, is that, I mean, I appreciate when bands change their sound, but for some reason, when you're a kid, when you're immature, you don't really like accept when a band changes their sound.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, oh, wait, no, they've moved on from what, you know, if I'm listening to Wire, I want to listen to the first album or whatever.
Right. Yep.
Like, I don't like it when a band changes on me.
Right.
And the
In the
Damned
same way.
Yeah.
does
But if
that.
you listen to
But
like,
yeah, it's the same. Like
if you listen to like Machine Gun Etiquette and you hear Dave Vanian's voice like wanting to come out, like, I mean, it's already
Yeah.
been there the whole time, but like, you know, he definitely has that such a distinct
So I
voice.
think that's where I was going at. Like I am familiar with this album, and that's why it was funny when you said like, yeah, people go to see them, because I'm not super familiar with the Damned. I've seen them a couple times, and like super enjoyed it. And I was like, I need to like learn more about this band because I never had anybody introduce me to them. But I do remember like, so this came out earlier, like this came, so I was like 13 or something like that. So I was kind of like probably listening to Duran Duran stuff,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
but it's funny because like I remember that friends that after I moved to California, Northern California, and I had friends like I remember seeing this like
album,
seeing
yeah.
this with them, and I
new
knew
album
some
by
of the
the
stuff.
Damned.
Yes, and it's like so I always thought that this would be one that people would go and want to hear just because it is kind of different, but that's just because I don't have any association with with them,
Well,
you know?
I think as I've matured, I actually appreciate when bands change and stretch out and do different things and experiment and make an album that's like, you listen to the Stranglers and they go all over the place. The Damned goes all over the place. Wire goes all over the place. Like the Clash goes all over the place. I love the adventurous bands as a like, I love AC/DC too, of course, or whatever, but I do love the bands that are adventurous and do different things. But like, what I like about the Damned is that there's a sense of fun in a way, and you can't really put your finger on it, but you can hear the like fun in their music. It's just in their personalities.
Oh,
It's
Yeah,
Definitely.
And I think that's
and
kind of
they're
like
not goofy.
no, just
Because they're
But
very
just-
talented. Like,
Right.
but
Yeah.
But
they're
it's
like they're not like
fun.
Andrew Eldridge where
That's
he's
what I like
like
about it.
steaming.
It's
know,
funny
like-
to contrast both albums
Yeah,
in a way
for
because
sure.
they're kind of doing similar things aesthetically, but like where the Damned are like doing it and it's campy and a little bit fun and organs and kind of like Halloweeny, but then
Yeah.
the Sisters
Like
of
when-
Mercy is like
Like they're gonna
on, like
yeah.
they're serious about what
serious.
they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I brought another. Well,
Yeah, please show that because that's so
So
cool.
I brought a single from Phantasmagoria with Grimly Fiendish, and that song, like that's what I
got
think-
them the record.
That's what
Right?
made them like kind of not famous, but like I feel like that was one of their highest.
I think that's what got. I don't know if they had kind of like already demoed that or something, but I think that's what got them their original like contract when the contract.
Oh,
with-
that's right.
yeah, because like Grimly Fiendish. I mean, it's such a good song. It's just so fun.
My
and it's
favorite
just,
song.
And I think
album, yeah.
Captain Sensible actually helped write it.
I think you might be
'cause,
right.
Yeah,
actually.
even
I
though
think-
he wasn't on that
It
album.
was like his brother or something. Didn't his brother write one of the
Ooh,
Captain Sensible's brother wrote like a song.
I don't know. I know that in my research, I'm pretty sure Captain Sensible was credited as help like co-writing one of the songs, and it might be.
Was his solo career like taking off too much at this point? Is that
I think it was, and I think that's why he left.
Because he became like a personality.
Yeah, yeah.
like
But that's weird because like, and that's what you were saying, like kind of about like their two styles are so different, and the fact that they had both those like the people with two strong characters with strong identity, like they knew their identity and they like projected it, and they had that. It's like I think that's what makes them even more special is that they were able to. We're gonna have our identity and then hone it into, you know.
Well, I like the fact that I feel like Dave Vanian wasn't like this. Like, like Andrew Eldridge wanted everyone to look a specific way and like whatever. And Dave
Did he?
Vanian, yeah, and like Dave Vanian's kind of like, oh, if Captain Sensible wants to wear like a big pink fur coat and like whatever, and it's not, he doesn't have to look a specific way.
See, I don't know.
Raz Scabies is like shirt off and just spitting.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, because I know that like Gary Marks said early on that I think the way that they looked was very, very detailed to the scene that was going on in Leeds at this at the F Club.
Yeah.
Because they actually said, like I think it was Gary Marks that actually like, pointed out. He was like, yeah, they all had like. They all wore these. I don't remember exactly what all it was, but
Like
one of the things he
paisley
put up, the really
Paisley.
ridiculous paisley
Sure.
shirts,
Yeah.
and that's what they're all
LA.
wearing, except for
Yeah.
Andrew Eldridge. That's what
Paisley
they're all wearing
Underground.
on the back of the
Oh,
album.
yeah.
These like ridiculous, stupid. I mean, I love them. I think
love
they're
them,
awesome
too.
looking.
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I love the first three albums. I never really took a chance on the later albums just because there's so many other things, and you look through them and you're like, I don't know about that one. This one kind of scares me. But as a drummer, I really appreciate Rat Scabies' drumming on this. He's
I love his drumming on this.
it really impressed me because I know the first three albums so well, and I know his drumming on that so well, and he's a great drummer for those albums. But on this album, it's like he's became this like he's evolved his drumming that I really appreciated as somebody who could.
Like Shadow of Love, his drumming in that, it's like the best because it's like that
Yeah.
train.
Oh,
and it's like Bonanza drumming.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that song. So I love this whole album, honestly, because it reminds me of, if I can compare like any other album to this album, it would be Alice Cooper's Death. Has 18 on it. What's that?
Yeah,
and
Love It to
from
Death.
Love It to Death.
Yeah.
The whole album is like, it's like a production, you know, and it's like from start to finish. And I feel like this is how this album is.
That's how Dave wanted it.
It reminds me of, it's
Yeah.
like start to finish, it's like a story, you know? And even from like
Best
the
album,
last
sure.
song, Trojans, like it's just like leaves with like this relaxing ending, you know? But I don't know. That's just my theory about the album.
I like the way it's like Sanctum Sanctorium ends with It's But a Dream, and then like the next song, the very first song on the next side is It a Dream? Like you almost notice that more when you're listening to it like on like on an iPod or something when it goes straight through. When you're turning it over, like maybe you miss that little second where it's like It's But a Dream, and then it's just like, you know, it starts out and then it's like and then it goes in, it's like, is it a dream? And it's like, oh, that's really cute.
That is
I don't
cute.
know, it's like something that like, it just feels like it had to have been intentional.
Yeah,
and
done on
it brings you
purpose.
back to the
It's
time
definitely
when,
intentional.
oh, it's definitely intentional.
And
it
then
brings you back to the
Grimly
time when they thought about it.
Fiendish is the next song, like dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
And then the 8th Day is like the 8th song.
I hadn't
So-
noticed that. I hadn't noticed that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and the 8th Day is it's definitely one of my favorite
Mine
songs
too.
on the album.
And some people don't like it, but I think it's like, I don't know. It makes me happy. It makes me so happy.
Well,
It's
he's
so
like,
bouncy. It's like,
dancing,
it's like-
dancing, dead or knocking on my door.
It's
That's
so
like,
awesome.
it's like a show tune, and he's like, the lyrics are so good.
yeah, I mean, no, it's like,
It just shows his like humor, as well as his like super, like he's so talented
Kind of a
and
crooner,
like,
Yeah.
kind of all that.
yeah.
kind of a
I
crooner,
know.
but it's really what I think part of what translates and makes this album is his lightheartedness, and you can tell that he's just a very lighthearted person with a very strong sense of self.
Yeah.
That, you know, but still
That
doesn't take himself seriously,
Right.
which is awesome.
and his bandmates don't have to know him that well. They just like are in a band with him.
I'm glad you chose it because I never gave this record a chance. I never owned this record. Like I said, I always passed it in the record bin because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be Dave Vanian's like pet project. And maybe it's not that good, but it's a lot. It's really high quality damned material.
Yeah, and
for sure.
one thing I think is so interesting about this is that it thanks Steve Naive from like, you know, who like he did play with Madness later, but he did a lot of work with like the Imposters and the Attractions, you know, with Elvis Costello.
Yes.
But for inspiration on Sanctum Sanctorium. But I think what's interesting is that he didn't. I can't remember the guy's name. The main keyboardist for Madness, because I hear so much.
I should know it, but I
It's
don't.
like Mike Barson or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's something like that. But I feel so much especially like on the second side mostly. I feel like a lot of Madness.
You do feel a little like kind of like later period Madness.
Yeah, with
you
the-
know,
with the-
like
yeah.
sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
not that I
doing
think that they were influenced by
Mad,
Madness. I
Not
just think that it
Mad,
actually
sort
kind
of.
I'm
of
sure they were all
Seeps in there.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're all in like
Yeah.
kind of the same area,
They're in the-
right? At
Yeah,
the
I
same
think
time.
so. I
They're
mean-
all UK rock
And it was a
stars,
small-
pop stars.
Yeah.
It's not like
Think
the
about how
U.S.
tiny
The U.S.
UK
is
is,
huge,
yeah.
and
Right.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is then is so interesting because like this, so they're from London, and then Sisters of Mercy, like they started in Leeds, so it's really not that by U.S. standards is not
It's
that
like a
far.
hop, skip, and a
yeah,
jump.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
standards, where like you can drive an hour just getting to work. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
you know they're very close to each other, but then they're so. It's just so
But,
different.
but in
I
UK
just-
size, they may as well be. It's like you can.
yeah.
British bands that toured the UK for like a month. And you're just
Yeah,
like,
there's
how are
so
you going?
many
It's like the
places to
equivalent of
go.
like a couple of states, and they're just
Yeah.
like going everywhere
Yeah.
or whatever.
So they're
But
very different from each other.
and yeah,
Each place, like
I
each.
just, I wonder, like, I would love to see like the interactions that Andrew Eldridge and Dave Vanian had together.
you know
like,
they
in those days.
they've
Have they?
I'm sure they
I
came
know-
across and
Oh, had
I
to.
know I read
sized each
this.
other up.
Yeah.
I read this interview from Patricia Morrison, who was saying, and I don't know, like part of this might be because she's bitter, and I would be too. I would be
Yep.
too. So I'm not blaming her for that, like for being angry about how that all panned out.
For sure,
You know, when
yeah.
she was like a serious musician and like.
Yeah.
Didn't get paid and didn't get
Nope.
credit. And didn't
I mean,
get...
there's like lawsuits and stuff that they've got going on.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like,
yeah, she
whatever.
can't even talk about
I'm
it.
sure she
But
probably didn't get paid in the gun club either, but not like anybody got paid in the gun club.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but the thing is, like, I don't know. I kind of doubt that she actually, because, you know, he'll be like, she didn't actually play on Floodland. But it's like, but she probably did play on the Sisterhood's album before
She
that,
did,
which
yes.
was a gift.
Yeah.
It's like, she should have gotten paid. And even if she didn't, and you hired her for, like, thinking that she would, but then you toured, like, for all these interviews with her because of her,
The way
she should get
looks.
paid.
Yeah, she
Then
should get paid. Yep.
Because she actually...
She put in the time.
She put in all the time.
They were friends, you know,
Yeah.
and
Well,
like
he
it went
said,
sour.
He said the
so-
reason that he asked her for, to join after everybody
all split,
left
right?
for this was because he I think that they had played with the gun club before,
Yes.
and he was a fan. He was a
Yeah.
fan of the gun club, so he asked. But one interview I read said, yeah, he wants to have a singing voice as good as Dave Vanian, and he wants to be as handsome as Dave Vanian. And I don't know if this interview was after she was married to Dave
Probably,
Vanian.
I don't know. Or if she had just had her sights on
Or
Dave
if, like,
Vanian.
or if she
Yeah.
had sights on Dave Vanian,
Yeah.
or if he really actually said that. And he might have said that because I have kind of I have a suspicion that maybe there was a little bit of like some cooking up going on there.
There's a lot of people speculating that there was
Hooking up.
that
There was
they
some hooking up.
definitely hooked up,
And then a
you
falling
know?
out.
Yeah.
How could they not?
I mean, come on.
She was in
They're
her
both-
20s,
They're
like-
both very attractive people. Why would you not do that?
She would have crushed him though. I mean, she's like a very tall, like strong ass woman, and he was like.
I think he was like super skinny
he's, like,
and like probably
tiny.
like average height.
Yeah.
And he was like a Jim Morrison wannabe. Like
I mean, you know, he started out thinking like that was kind of the look, you know,
Yeah.
but I don't think he definitely had a
His
lot
style.
of good influences. I mean, you know.
He
I
had
don't
good
feel
taste.
like- he had good taste,
And he's
yeah.
a super, super smart person. Not just like
Yes.
when I was talking about how he, went to Oxford and then like who does that? I'm
Yeah.
going to go and learn this language and then now I want to learn Mandarin Chinese, and then now I want to be in a band and be
Yeah.
on the radio. It's like, but he's super smart. So he programmed all the Dr. Avalanche.
Which is
It's
named
like-
after the Leonard Cohen song.
Well,
That is
Sisters,
what-
Dr. Avalanche is named
Yeah,
after
Dr. Avalanche is named after the Leonard Cohen
Because
Avalanche.
Sisters of Mercy,
Yeah.
like
It's
their name is named after
the Leonard Cohen song. too. Yeah, so
It was
both
like,
of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was a
big Leonard Cohen
Leonard
fan.
Cohen fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he actually eventually.
Didn't sound like Leonard Cohen.
No, it doesn't
No.
sound anything like
The
Leonard
music
Cohen.
did not come out
No.
like Leonard Cohen.
No.
Well,
that's for
I
sure.
mean, how do you feel about it being a drummer and then like using a drum machine the whole time?
You know what though? I think it works for stuff like this
Right.
because it sets a tone. Because I always think about Suicide,
That was a huge
and I think about
influence for them. Yeah.
Big Black, or I think about bands who use drum machine. When I think about Wall of Voodoo, I talked about this on the episode with Jesse, that the drum machine creates a kind of a weird tension that a live drummer can't do, which I really appreciate in certain types of music. Like Suicide with a live drummer would not be as like scary and threatening and
For sure,
and
you're
weird.
right, yeah.
And Wall of Voodoo with a live drummer, even though they kind of had a live drummer, but the drum machine going, the rhythm box, sort of made this like weird tension. And I think also with Sisters of Mercy, it's like a weird tension.
It's like a
that
driving,
it
constant,
creates.
yeah.
That there's this like unrelenting, and also I like how their songs. And it was funny because I had to look up the actual running time of the songs because it was like, is every song like 12 minutes long? Like every song just like goes and goes and goes. And I look and it's
not
like,
good for a short attention
it's only
span.
4 minutes, or like when you look at the actual running time,
Oh,
they're
you
not.
felt they were
Well,
longer
unless-
because
You
of
think they're longer
Some of them
because
are,
it just
because I mean,
some of
on
them are.
Floodland, you know, there's like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but this one's not so much, and it's weird because when I first, so I'll just talk about how
Yeah.
I even got into the Sisters of Mercy.
This is your.
Yeah, and actually, and
The
then
origin
I don't know if
story
we actually
of
then talked
Sisters.
about how you got into. Did we talk about how you got into?
We did a little bit.
A
Like
little
I
bit?
did not get into The Damned until my 20s.
Okay.
So, and I was not into Phantasmagoria until much later.
Okay.
because I was into the punk version of the Damned.
And then so kind of like James, and then you went back.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. And
You
then
weren't
we'll kinda
scared
do
of the
like
album when you saw it.
of
You're
the-
like, let me give this a shot.
Well, how could
Oh
you be?
yeah,
With,
the
as soon as
album
you pick
cover
up the
is
cover, I
amazing.
know.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, if I were flipping through a record bin, even if I didn't know who the Damned were and I saw that cover,
be
I
like-
would buy that album.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
like,
it's
this
just on the
speaks
cover.
to me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they
like that.
actually there was no like photoshopping. Like they actually took a did the
in
photography
yeah.
in the
in the
cemetery.
cemetery, like
So
right then.
yeah,
That's
She's
the
so
exact
pretty
Anyway.
image.
too. She's so pretty.
I'm sure. Yeah, They're-
So did you buy? Do you remember where you bought this?
Sure do. I remember. I can tell you exactly. I can tell you everything.
this.
I grew up in a very, very small town in Western Maryland. We didn't even have. We had like 2 stoplights. You know what I mean? And there was a college there, which is great, called Frostburg State University, and they had a radio show. You know, whatever, like a radio station that I would always listen to because I had been in like. You know, as get younger, I was into like, I mean, REM was like the first band that blew my mind, and then Dead Milkmen, and like whatever, you know, you go through your like 7th grade phase, and then I remember being going to the Baltimore Harbor for a school field trip and walking down like through the harbor and seeing this guy coming at me, and I just like, I don't know, I was like, he had like long black hair, sunglasses, combat boots, and I think he had like camouflage cargo shorts or something on, but he had a Sisters of Mercy t-shirt on, and I never
With the logo?
with the logo,
Which Andrew Eldridge like
Does the
designed because he
Merciful
actually
Release?
does all
Yeah.
which
He
is
does-
just like the
which is
Grey's Anatomy like
Yes.
phase with
And the
over
star.
like a pentagram. I think it's like a pentagram, isn't it?
yes,
maybe? I think it
it
is,
is
yeah.
a pentagram.
But it's like
So
that's
it was
cool.
that, and I just
And
remember
you're like,
being like, I didn't that image has just been in my head since then. I mean, that was like in 1987.
Like you saw that and you thought that was cool. And
I
you're
thought it
like,
was cool.
that's-
Yeah, I gotta figure
And
out.
then like
I gotta-
not
I
like
gotta hear
shit,
this
probably like
band.
but it didn't even click. I just remember being like, that guy just looked so crazy. I've never seen anyone that looked like that, especially coming from like a podunk town, you know. So I like fast forward like 2 years. It was probably 1990, and I heard this Corrosion. They played it on the like local college radio station
in your town.
in my town. The next day, I was like, "Mom, take me to Camelot Music. I gotta go get
We gotta find this. We gotta find
That
this.
song
get
was
this.
incredible. I remember they played it on 120 Minutes a lot.
Yes.
I was like,
yeah.
incredible.
I mean, that video is just
I mean, it's just like
amazing.
for sure. And
Like,
I think
all
that
those
was like
videos.
and I didn't realize when we did the gun club because I mean, the Sisters of Mercy were something was like I owned Floodland, but they weren't a band that I dug a lot deeper. I mean, you didn't have the internet back then, so it's like
Yes,
not
yeah.
really, you know. And then I never went back and revisited it. But every time I'd hear a Sisters of Mercy song that I hadn't heard before, I was always like, I really like
it's
this. Like I
good.
really like his voice. I think that's what's like
He
the
has a great
deep,
voice.
like,
And
you
so
know?
many people have like tried to like do that. I mean,
So many.
Set the template.
Yeah,
for-
He's
he
not
really
super.
did.
He's not
But
super
it's-
happy with it on the. I think like. So I think it was like, was it Ben Gunn? I think he said something like he was just trying to sound like David Bowie, like Heroes era
Yeah.
David Bowie, like yeah. But it's like, which I can kind of. He was a huge
Well, if you
glam
figured
fan.
it out,
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
he figured it out. Like
He figured
did.
it out big time.
He sounds
yeah.
well. Honestly, John Ashton of the Furs, like really
The Furs.
of the Furs of the
Sure.
Furs,
The
the
Furs.
Furs.
Sure.
The first of the psychedelic first. He actually kind of helped with that because I think that when he did the demo for Alice, he kind of did some things with his vocals that even after because I don't think John Aston says that he didn't pay him for that either.
Uh-huh.
So
Imagine
that they continued using the
Yeah.
the stuff that he had done, but it's just like so I think that was partly it because I think before they just used a lot of like distortion and fuzz or something
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
and like the can you use fuzz and vocals? Or maybe that's the guitars. I don't know.
course.
Can you? Okay, well then fuzz.
Put
Fuzz
it
is what they
everywhere,
did.
yeah.
They were
Reverb, whatever, yeah.
initially,
Fuzz.
but yeah. So I think it was just. I think that John Ashton. Well, I've heard earlier stuff before Alice was pretty much the thing that
Alice,
made
man,
him.
that song,
Yeah.
that song is amazing, and I didn't like that was earlier than this, but I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
hear it until much later. It was like 1982, I think that came
That's
out.
the same with
Yeah.
me. Like, so, well, I mean, Alice, I'm sure I've heard it before, but I had to go back and listen to it when I was reading up on this because it's not, like I said, this is not a band that I ever really went down. And I remember seeing, like, I didn't realize when we did the Gun Club episode, like, so I researched and I knew, like, Patricia Morrison and all that. Like, I didn't realize that she was, oh my gosh, she was the really hot girl in the video,
Yeah.
like, the hot
Yeah.
lady, because she was an adult and I was, like, a teenager. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's
And
pretty.
she was
Jeffrey Lee
only
Pierce
actually like
started out.
19,
Yeah.
right?
Was she really?
Well, she's in the bags. I think she was like 19.
19.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by that time she might have been a little bit older,
She was
not that
maybe,
much.
yeah.
Not-
22.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which when you're like, 16 is like,
Yeah.
ooh,
But she looked a lot older than she
Well,
was.
a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
And
She-
stuff will do
and the
that.
hair was
she
like
just had such a, I mean, for like teenage me, I was like, she got some style.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
she had a presence.
I mean, that's like I used her. Like I was like, this is what. So go to Camelot Music with my mom, and they didn't have Floodland, and I was like, well, but they had First and Last and Always.
Is that how you came across it?
So I bought the cassette and took it home and was like, listen to it. I mean, I feel like it was so stupid and cheesy, but I feel like it gave me like an identity because before I just didn't. I was like, oh, I love GBH, but I love REM, but I love Love and Rockets, and then I listened to the Sisters of Mercy, and I was
You
like,
connected to
this
it
is
so much.
This is me.
Now I know
like
it.
this is
Yeah.
like what has I've been missing in my life,
Yeah.
And I was like, my dad. I was already like a weirdo girl because my dad was a mortician, so it just kind of.
There you
I
go.
was like, I might as well just like go that route
Just go
anyway.
into it.
Just go with
Just
it.
like,
you
yeah.
know?
she really
So
went with
I
it.
really went with it, and it was a huge. I was a goth for a very big part of my life. And
That's so badass.
but it also was like a gateway for me to
Yeah.
open me up to so much. I don't know. I mean, I watched 120 minutes every Sunday night, and I listened to, and we had one music store. It was Camelot. You can't get a whole lot there, but you figure it out.
You can't get a whole lot at
Camelot.
Camelot.
You can get some, but I had my.
But you also
time at
had,
Camelot.
but you also
Yeah.
had the college town, which
I
helped
had
a
the
lot.
college town, and I became friends with the people that worked at Camelot, and they took me to the first Lollapalooza. They really embraced me because I was
Yeah.
in there all the time, being like, okay, what you got? And the Chuck that worked at Camelot was also one of the DJs at the radio station.
Really?
So it's like this whole
So this wasn't even like your group of friends. This was just like
So,
you.
way older people.
You saw the video for This Corrosion.
Yep.
And you wanted Floodland.
Yep.
And you
I
went
didn't
to buy
see
it.
the video for This Corrosion. I heard it on the radio.
You heard it on the radio.
And then I was
and
like,
you
I wanted
it.
to buy that. They didn't have it, so I bought First and Last and Always. And
So
then it just
cool.
and then I was like, they were like, we'll get it in. We'll let you know. We'll call you.
I mean, I just came across this, and I can honestly say this is now one of my. It's one of my favorites. Like it's up there on one of my
So good.
favorites. It's just. I mean,
great.
I think it's just. I knew I would like it because I. And maybe this was wrong of me because it's not always true, but I suspected that there would still be the singer with the same voice, and I just absolutely love his voice. And I think that was why I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it. Maybe not. Maybe they have a different person singing. Maybe it's a completely different style. But and yeah.
Also,
yeah, wow.
Wayne Hussey's guitar playing on it is beautiful. And he plays 12-string guitar.
Oh yeah, he does. But
yeah.
only on the okay. So this is so weird, right? And you know, right? So the first side. So Gary Marks was one of the initial. Gary Marks and Andrew Eldritch.
And Ben Gunn, right, with the first three.
Were and I think it was Marks and Eldritch by their original names because they hadn't changed their names.
Right.
That started the band, and then Ben Gunn, and then I think Craig Adams, the bassist, joined soon after. And then Ben Gunn, when Ben Gunn left, Wayne Hussey from Dead or Alive joined, and he plays the 12-string.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, I think that Gary Marks felt a little, like he was being displaced by Wayne Hussey, because both of these sides, so it's like Wayne Hussey wrote most of the music on the first side, except for, I think it's No Time to Cry, maybe? and then which was like joint credit for the music. Andrew Eldridge wrote all the lyrics, but then second side is all Gary Marks except for one song, which I think might be Possession, was a joint credit. So it's very straight, because like if you listen to the first side, you hear way more of the 12 strings, you hear way more of the jangle, and then you go to the other side, but they're still comprehensive. Like it still feels like the same animal.
It's interesting when albums are sequenced that way, where you think it's like side, because I think about Spaceman 3 Recurring, where it was like they were so, Jay Spaceman and Sonic Boom were so at each other, like they didn't get along, so they basically made a solo album for each side, where the other person's not on the other.
That's cool.
Really?
And that's what
like
you're talking about with that.
Well, yeah,
where
I mean,
just
they both played on
almost
the other, but it was kind of like they were.
This is your side, these are your songs, and here's your songs. But that's kind of cool, like for a side A and a side B. I wanted to recognize that it's amazing that the college radio station in your little town played it, because I always think about the college radio stations of our youth and as a kid, being able to listen to WRAK, because I grew up here. I've lived here since I was 11. So listening to Rec, for example, like just was like the sponge, moment, and then the same thing with you. Living in a college town.
So lucky.
It's like,
especially
like
definitely
you coming from like you came from a
very small town.
I came from a small town, but you came from a really small town. But I didn't have that like.
You didn't have the college element.
I didn't have the college element.
I feel like
I had Camelot music, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, because you don't have the college students that are super into music.
So I was just like, I was influenced by the skateboarders that I hung out with, but like.
They always have
whatever
too,
they listen to.
It's
but
interesting.
Like when I started hanging out with Karen, like I didn't know about goth music until Karen, like real goth music. I mean, I knew about The Cure and like, I knew about Ministry, but like she's taught me so much about music.
I do think it's a great set of albums between the two of them. I'm glad you picked them both. For sure, as like
there's a lot of weird connections.
There's so many weird connections.
This sound and this aesthetic, and totally two different approaches.
It is though, right? Like they're both ones that, like, regardless of whether or not they actually are or actually considered to be by whatever. They're both like. They're both considered goth albums. Like they really are, And
they both will be played this evening.
They're both going to be
Brig.
Well, and they're both going to be played.
They will be played in the Brig. And Karen was telling me when we were like discussing this that the first time she heard Phantasmagoria was at
688.
688 Club.
Because it was Nocturnia. Was on Tuesday nights. It was like the goth night. And so that was the first time I had heard Phantasmagoria, or like songs off of that, because they would play
on the goth night.
Was that the first time you'd heard The Damned, or like the?
I think so. I mean, I can't remember. I don't think I'd heard them before that. They definitely weren't like something like I didn't have like any, because people would make you mixtapes and stuff like that, and they weren't like on any of my mixtapes, and I didn't see them at Camelot Music, although I wish someone would have told me about them.
They might have been there somewhere.
I feel like The Damned kind of was like lost to the wayside kind of band in a lot of ways, even though they were the first punk single in
maybe in America. I think, but let's let Tom, do you want to say your goodbyes and bring us out?
Wait, before Tom says goodbyes, I want to hear. I want to hear Karen's favorite song.
We're songs. Just
what's
my favorite? This is tough. I feel like Possession and 9 Mile 9 are my kind of like two favorites, but it changes. Like I don't know. Like it's sometimes I'll listen to it and I'm like, oh, I love Black Planet, and the video of that is
Black Planet is
so great.
I think what's interesting is that because they. Like this is Gary Marks and this is Wayne Hussey, but it's like at the same time that the intros to like they almost are, even though it's not like a complete album, they feel so complete. Like the opener on each side is really strong, and the closer on each side is really strong.
That's how you sequence an album.
It's like,
there you go.
I mean, it's really good, and then it's so they could be like they're separate entities, but they.
Yeah. And I feel like it changes a lot. Like I don't know. Especially when I know, like when I've read the lyrics and like, I don't know, he writes, like some of the lyrics don't seem like they're very like smart sometimes. But he uses words, like when you read them, they read a totally different meaning because he'll switch the way it's actually spelled. Like he'll say,
Oh, really?
Yes. So like there's
He
like
plays on words.
He plays on words all the time, and then when you actually are reading the lyrics, you're like, oh, that means a completely different thing than what I'm hearing when you're singing because of the way it's like he's, you know, like
It's
Yeah.
he's like says
that linguist.
Yeah.
like,
Well,
element of
yeah, I
it.
mean,
Yeah,
he's
sure.
definitely, and he will say that he's definitely I mean, he went to
A
school for like all that.
lyricist,
Like it's like
yeah.
language is
His words
he
is
sees
just,
the power in language a lot.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta wrap up.
Yep.
So, thank you very much for choosing these records. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. Oh my God! Thank you guys so
Yes.
much.
Right,
Yeah. Thank you guys
We
so
could
much.
talk forever about
I
these.
could I could
We
talk
will
forever about
talk
both of
forever.
these.
Yeah.
We could I could sit here for hours and talk about these with you guys. So let's do that. Let's do this after.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for asking us to do it.
No, definitely. Oh my God,
thank
I'm so
you.
excited.
Tom, you want to say any final words?
Everything's been said already.
Hop on in there.
I just want to say thank you to Karen and Jenny. And we love doing this
Especially,
show.
thank you.
And again, the best thing in the world is love and friendship and music. So that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing your
Thanks.
stories with us. And thank you guys for watching. And again, Armando and Argosy in East Atlanta Village.
Thank you.
Brotherhood and sisterhood. We're really so lucky. So
Armando, are you gonna
cheers
goth
and
dance after
cheers
this
and
with us?
one love, everyone. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah,
We'll see
Armando,
you
what's
next
your goth
time.
dance?
That's a good goth dance.
There you go.